Hello and welcome to the program. This is the morning show reaching you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Of course, this is your number one financial newsroom. I am Nancy Lu. Thank you for investing your time with us today on the program. I hope it will be profitable and fruitful. On today's edition of the program, I will be looking at Delta State economy, Delta State, which I am from. So for those of you that think I'm from Anambra or Enugu, the doubts are over. I'm from Delta State, and the governor of Delta State will be joining me in a short while, Dr. Emmanuel Oduaghan. We'll be looking at the Delta State economy, the mantra now of Delta beyond oil. He should be explaining that to me in a short while. We'll look at the economy of Delta State, investment. I do know that in February of this year, the Delta State organized an investors forum in Lagos. I was also there, trying to make the state open. Delta State says that it's open for business, so it's not just the state that is known for oil. So the Chief Executive Officer of the state will be joining me in a moment. So we'll be talking. Hello and welcome back to the program. Like I did say at the beginning of the program, I'll be looking at Delta State's economy. The Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Emmanuel Oduaghan, is joining me right now for us to look at Delta State. Welcome, Your Excellency, to the program.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm fine.
Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Where should we start from? Delta beyond oil. Delta beyond oil, because I remember the last time you were here, we talked about Delta beyond oil. We talked about your economic dashboard, but I will start taking you bit by bit. Tell me where Delta State right now is on Delta beyond oil, because you said it at different fora that it's your desire to see Delta States diversify away from oil. Of course, is the mantra even in Nigeria that we should diversify from all resources. Where is Delta State right now on that?
Well, I would say we're just at the foundation stage. But let me first of all try and explain again, because not everybody understands what Delta beyond oil is all about. Delta states, being one of the oil-producing states, it's an oil-dependent economy, just almost like the Nigerian economy. But we know that the oil is not a commodity that can sustain an economy forever, and we need to look at other areas of diversification. And so what we are doing is, whatever we are getting, the money we are getting from the oil, we are using it to develop other areas of the economy. That is primarily what Delta beyond oil is all about. Of course, the challenge for any leader today, whether you are at the states, at the local government, at the federal level, is that of unemployment. We have a lot of our youths, especially a lot of our women that are unemployed. And you notice that many presidents, even across the world, are losing elections because of the challenge of unemployment. So we must create employment for the young generation in particular. And so to do that, that's why we talked about Delta beyond oil, because even the oil industry that used to employ a lot of persons can no longer employ that much. We have a company called EGTL in Delta that cost almost 9 billion to start. But finishing now, they cannot employ more than 500 because most of the companies are now automated. So what do we do? Let us look at other areas of the economy, and that is why we're trying to develop, going back to the agricultural sector in particular, which is our primary focus, in looking at Delta beyond oil. People have asked me why agriculture. I said, well, Delta beyond oil really is about my growing up. I grew up in a typical village where there was no electricity, no water, pipe-borne water, no road to the place. The only form of development that was there was the primary school. That was the only, no health center or anything. But then we wake up in the morning with the bush lamp on our head, go to the farm. Of course, you wake up with the three crude, three. The first one wake you up, second one you're getting ready, third one you must start moving. We go and tap rubber, from the rubber, it is daybreak, you go and check your trap, whether you have caught one bush meat or the
So
other.
did you do all that when
you were
young?
I did.
Oh, you see the paradox of life. No health center, you're a medical doctor.
Yes, I did. Now, the point I'm driving at is that by the time you finish, you go to the farm, the women are there, they already roasted plantain with your palm oil. So you are short of a breakfast. Okay, and then in the afternoon, after that, you have to go to school. From school, you are short of lunch. in the evening, you are sure of dinner. Why? Because there was a lot of farming that was going on. So there was no food scarcity. And because you are sure of the 3 square meals, it was very difficult to get you angry. And because you are not angry, the tendency to get violence is quite remote. Unlike now. Now, what has happened? That area, that traditional occupation of fishing and farming is gone. Everybody has now are now facing oil, pursuing oil. One, because even the environment is damaged. The people cannot even fish or farm. The water that used to be very clean is polluted. And so what are we saying? Let us go back to that era where it was possible. I'm not talking of the lack of development era where there was no road and all that. Thank God those things have come. But a lot of the unemployment that has gone on, that is going on today, can be tackled if we now open up the space for our young ones to face the area of agriculture. There are other areas we are facing, culture and tourism, areas of manufacturing, even human capital development, because our greatest asset in Delta is the human being. Most of the artists in Nigeria today, and I was happy that in doing the rebasing of GDP, they talked about entertainment industry was recognized. Every comedian you see today, they are from Warri, or they grew up in Warri. So we have that strength. Comedy, acting, of course singing, and of course the one that is really the rave of the moment is sports. With the blessings and all that, we have a lot of. So we are looking at all those areas in terms of our Delta beyond. Where are we now, as of today? 2 aspects. One is attracting investments to Delta that will ensure that our people are employed and that we stimulate the economy. In the agricultural sector, we have a lot of agricultural activities that are now going on. Working with the federal government, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, we have one of the largest farms in Abraka area today of cassava, over 150 hectares of farmland. In fact, I couldn't believe it when I went there that we can have that kind of stretch in the delta of cassava. The processing factory will soon come, so we have that. And also in the Ika area, we have another big farm of tomatoes, which is a private investment of tomatoes farming. And of course, we have the Obasanjo Delta farm of poultry, one of the biggest poultry farms in Nigeria today. So, and for as a state also, we're also stimulating some other industries that related to agriculture. We are constructing 6 fish feed processing factories, mills in Delta, and also the cassava processing. That we are starting. We are working with BOI, Bank of Industry. So we have a lot of these agricultural industries that are springing up, and of course there are links to the local farmers. There's a linkage of these big farms to the local farmers. There's secondly also in the entertainment area, the tourism area, we have a place called Oleri, where we are developing one of the biggest water theme parks. It's an entertainment center. And of course, I have Agwashuku, which is not too far from where you. And I was happy when you were telling your viewers that you are from Delta.
Because people don't think I'm from Delta.
Okay, you see, you are one of the human resources that we have in Delta. We have the zoo that is coming up in that area. Of course, a lot of hospitality industries are coming up that we used to have. Big hotels, the Hiltons, the Proteas, they are all coming up in Delta. So, of course, going further than that, we have the manufacturing sector that is also coming up. We have the petrochemical plant, of course, the biggest gas city in Africa is being promoted by the federal government in a place called Ugidigben. It will have a deep sea port. It will have gas processing facilities, and of course petrochemical fertilizer plants, the big gas there. And also the Melu Holdings is also interested in Delta, and they've gotten their land where they are also building the petrochemical plant. So we have a lot of these industries that are coming up. And of course, there used to be industries before that have shut down, and working with economic management team, of course, led by Bismarck Rawane, they are in contact with a lot of investors who are trying to take over these industries that are around. Now, those are major things. They take years to develop, and they take years to mature. But on the low-hanging fruit side, the quick wins, we are concentrating on microcredit scheme, in which...
Your Excellency, just hold your fire a bit. I'll come back to that MSMEs thing. Yeah. But I really want to take you up on some of the things you said. You've enumerated a few things that is being done away from oil. But if we go back to the oil resources, do you think that the way it is right now, that Delta State, of course, under your leadership, has been able to manage its oil resources well?
You see, the oil resources is not managed by the states.
The revenue, yes, it's
okay,
revenue.
The revenue.
You are all entitled to 30%.
Yes. So I would say yes, we've been able to. Now, the challenge of any state today, in terms of managing what is coming in, is the challenge of recurrent expenditure, which has, in the last 7 years, I would say, gone up for over 300%. The fact that there has to be an increase in the wages of workers, of course, minimum wage of 7,500 is now minimum of 18,000. We have the revenue from tax before that used to help. The tax for the workers now has now reduced. So what you get from there is reduced. Then two, we have this pension scheme where there's contributed pension scheme. For Delta, we've contributed over 16 billion, which was not being done before, So there's a heavy shift on the recurrent expenditure for every government. That's why you see government spending 70%. Yes, some people might tell you we are spending less than 40 budget-wise, but the reality is that most governments are spending much more than 50% in terms of... Now, having said that, the heavy burden of recurrent expenditure, what is left is the capital expenditure. And reasonably, we've been able to manage that aspect well. In all the areas we are laying emphasis on, and I'll just try and enumerate them. The area of the power sector, in which we have invested in the federal government privatization program, in addition to trying to finish our independent power plant, and of course the distribution networks, a lot of transformers that we have bought. And of course, in the area of transportation, a lot of our roads, airports that we are building, and all that. Of course, also in the area of ICT, unfortunately, my advisor on ICT, we just buried him last week. I
commiserate with you on that.
May he so rest in peace. Yeah. He had gone very far on our ICT project. So, in terms of infrastructure, we have done a lot of investment. And there are also the social infrastructure, in the area of education, the schools. Of course, you know that the standard of our schools now, we have improved on the standard, because we believe that the learning environment must be encouraging for the young one to learn. So you can see the difference in the type of schools we have now. And of course, the health sector, we have also invested very heavily. Transportation, our buses, our water transportation, and water, and all that. I think we can justify the expenditure that we've received.
Okay, let me take you back to the micro, small, and medium enterprises. I know you do have a scheme in Delta State about that is addressing that. I also know that you took keen interest. Was it about 3 weeks ago you were in Abuja at the Central Bank headquarters here? At the Central Bank headquarters, where the Central Bank Governor Godwin Emefiele talked to some of you, that is you and some of your colleagues, in terms of the 220 billion naira MSMEs fund that was launched by Mr. President. Tell me why you have so much keen interest in that, one. Number two, have you been able to also assess the funds? Three, if you have been able to assess the funds, where is it going to? Will it go to the people that need it directly?
Yeah. Why do I have keen interest in microcredit? Because first, I believe that it is the quickest way of stimulating our economy. It's the low-hanging fruit in our economic development program. Like I said, the big industries takes time to materialize. First, you have to deal with infrastructure, and then before you now attract the investors. So it takes quite some time, maybe 5-10 years. But the microcredit schemes, they are just quick wins. What do? You just put the various people into cooperatives. And of course, that I also learned while I was growing up in the village. We used to have what they call susu. And susu simply means people coming together, maybe 10, 15, 20. You see them in the market collecting money, and at the end of the day,
someone takes it.
15, maybe if they are 20, 2 or 3 take the money, depending on how much is left. And they ensure that they make returns, because there's what we call the peer pressure from the others. If you don't make returns, the others will not get. So the others will ensure that you make returns. So you don't need collaterals. You know, it was that knowledge that we put into our microcredit scheme. We formed the various people who were interested into cooperatives, and we started funding the cooperatives through microfinance banks. Now, it's important that you use a medium that can ensure transparency, one, ensure that the returns are made, because if you give it directly as government, it's seen as Father Christmas. And of course, they don't make returns. But because we're using the microfinance banks, they manage it so well, and of course they were making returns. And I must give kudos to women, because women made better returns and they were more committed in terms of the investment. For the men, initially we had this challenge where they get the money. Of course, they look at other things because of women. We have a way of managing the money that comes to us in a way that is not...
so you've acknowledged it now, women are better managers of
money.
Yes,
there's no doubt. Okay. Small money, I don't know about big money, but at least those small funds, women are better managers. And so they started making returns, and as they made returns, we're adding more, plus the returns they were making, we're giving to more persons. So much so that now a lot of those micro credit schemes are graduating to small and medium scale enterprises. A lot of them have now gone, especially the one in manufacturing, they are now being exported. I know that the woman who was making spices, or who is making spices, although she has retired now, she has given the business to her children. Her spices can be found in ShopRite. Anywhere you see ShopRite all over the world, you can see her spices. Even the woman at Ugeli who was just a plantain farmer, now she's processing her plantain, packaging it, has NAFDAC number, and is exporting her plantain. So the micro ones are now developing into the medium. Now, if you look at some shoes, you know, the kind of police boots shoes that I wanted to bring on, that are being made now, some of them can make it. So much so that UNIDO has taken interest in a microcredit scheme. Now, the UNIDO, what they have done is to take some of these local people that are making shoes. They've taken them to Italy, trained them, so they are back. You know, we're trying to give them some equipment so that they can start making shoes. And through UNIDO, there's a link. We have now linked aquaculture. You will understand aquaculture very well.
That's my native cloth.
Yeah, that the women that make, they use hand to weave native cloth. What UNIDO is doing is to see how they can develop machines that will make it faster for them. So instead of this manual one, they can use machines to make aquaculture. And the other thing is that they are linking there with Giorgio Armani. So in another year or two, you start seeing aquaculture
on the runway.
Yes, so as part of Giorgio Armani products. You know, so that encourages and stimulates a lot of production of those kind of things. So that's where we are in our micro credit scheme.
How much have you been able to access from the 220 billion of the central bank?
Now, what the central bank is doing is to say states are entitled to about 2 billion. But then there's a criteria. You must meet up certain criteria. You must, of course, there must be an instrument from the House of Assembly that gives you the permission to go into it. That we have gotten. Of course, because we already have a structure at the state for a microcredit scheme, it was easy for us to meet up with the basic requirement. You must also have a guarantee from the bank. So we've done that, and of course, at the first disbursement by Central Bank, we were one of the 2 states that got it. Now they are not giving the states the whole 2 billion. They are giving the states in tranches. They have given us an instrument for 500 million. We are yet to collect it because we still have to meet some. We have to advertise for the banks, the microfinance banks. It's going to be disbursed through the microfinance banks. We have to advertise for the microfinance banks, which we have done, assess them, categorize them, and see the ones we can work with. Of course, the cooperatives we already have, but because this is a new program, we have to assess all the cooperatives, the ones that are qualified to have. So that's the process we are in now. Once we complete that, we'll go back to Central Bank and be able to collect the money. So what we have is now, what we are doing as a state is that the whole 500 million to the last 1 kobo, we go to beneficiaries. Whatever logistics we are going to need to be able to disburse it, whatever is needed, the state will take care of that. We want to ensure that every couple of that 500 million gets to the beneficiary. So we don't say, out of the 500 million, we use 10 million for logistics. No, we will not do that. Whatever it will cost the state to disburse this fund and also monitor and recover, the states will bear that cost.
How do you ensure that this 500 million, when you definitely get it from the Central Bank of Nigeria, that it will really reach the beneficiaries? That it will not be man, no man, or you understand what I mean?
No. You see, like I said, we've been doing this for 6 years, so we are not new in it. That is one. Two is cooperatives. It's not, you are not disbursing to individuals as such. That's why we go to the cooperatives. And in the cooperative where you have 20, 25, 30 persons, it is difficult for man or man or woman.
I understand that you have an existing relationship. How about new people that want to access those funds?
No, they also have to form cooperatives. That's why we're saying that. That's why I said we are not. In fact, we are not dealing with the old relationships. These are really for new persons, and they have to form themselves into the cooperatives. And we have a way of assessing the integrity of the cooperatives. It's not just. You see, what I did. I know it was quite tough when we started in 2007, 2008. Of course, you know. My colleagues, politicians, and other persons who are not politicians, you know, they want to look at this money as Father Christmas. That was why I put the program specially in my office. So I had to give an executive cover to the woman who was Dr. Shedu, who was managing it. But as a politician, we are not saying you should not benefit, but you must get the correct. You must be part of the correct system. You must ensure that whoever you are supporting must use the money, utilize the money correctly. It's not Christmas cake or just for sharing.
Okay, at this point, people have started commenting already on our Facebook page. Of course, the program is largely interactive, so in case you want to ask the governor a question, he's here with me here right now. So ask your questions. Go to our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/ABC Money Show Live. You can also tweet me at Nancy Ailo. So let me just read a few comments that I've gotten. Franklin Ikena is saying, if this move by His Excellency is not politicized, it's going to be a pure alternative for the liquid black gold. I grew up in Delta. The state is blessed with fertile land.
Yes, the place is blessed with fertile land, but you must also note that a lot of that land is now polluted with oil activities. And the water, especially the water, where you know, in those days you could just literally put your hand inside the water and remove fish. But now the water is polluted, so you hardly see the fish there. So one of the things we're also doing is dealing with the environmental sector. We are working with UNDP to be able to see how in the future we can clean up the water, we can regenerate the soil. It's quite a challenge. Yes, I agree that we have fertile land, but in some parts it's heavily polluted.
Okay, this other comment is coming from Austin Igbeniweka. He's saying government should also look into building storage and processing facilities for all agricultural produce, plus high quality packaging. Even locally produced goods should have a standard showroom. Thank you.
No, that is the big ticket farming. That's why I mentioned some facility, like your Obasanjo facility, for instance. It has a facility for production of feeds, and also as part of their strategic plan is the processing and packaging, so that people can now, the farmers, the small farmers, can come and use their processing facilities to process their chicken and package them. So also even the cassava plant, through the agricultural transformation agenda of Mr. President, they are doing Abraka. They are putting a processing facility and packaging. So the big farmers are bringing that, and they will service the small farmers.
Okay. I know you have 3-point agenda. 3-point agenda. The first one, peace and security. Yeah. The second, infrastructural development. The third is human capital development. Where are we in terms of infrastructural development? I know you've been reeling out, because I know you told me on the show the last time, the Warri Industrial Park, a lot of things that were reeled out. Where are we right now on those projects? We
are still on them. We must not forget that these are not small projects. They are big projects that take quite some time to actualize. On the transportation sector, we're already using the Asaba Airport, although we have not finished. No airport is ever finished. There's always continuous construction. Our road projects are going on. Asaba, the Warri Industrial Business Park, we've already started some construction. So in a lot of these big projects, construction is going on. People keep telling me, finish quickly and commission, finish quickly and commission. I don't think that is the idea. As the funds come in, we'll try to complete. There's no doubt that sometimes you have challenges with certain contractors, which has affected the pace of some of our projects. But we are dealing with those challenges.
Issues.
Yeah. So in terms of infrastructure, we are on.
In terms of peace and security, would you say would you score yourself 100% on that? Is Delta indeed peaceful now?
No country,
and security assured?
No country or state can score itself 100% of peace and security. If not, we'll just scrap the police, we'll scrap the army, we'll scrap the SSS. You always have security challenges, but it's much better than what it used to be. We started with the Niger Delta crisis, and of course, working with federal government through the amnesty program, dealing with the Niger Delta crisis. We had new challenge of kidnapping, armed robbery, and of course sea piracy, which we have strategized, and you will have heard that some of the kingpins of kidnapping, especially the one called Kevin, the SSS has arrested him, and a lot of his boys they have been arrested. They are going trial in the court. We also had to get involved in demolition of the buildings we were using, and that's why I'm happy with my neighbor, the Anambra governor, who is currently doing demolition.
Governor Biano.
Obi also started the demolition. Biano is continuing, and we've also been involved in demolition of the hideouts of these criminals. Of course, we have the ones that are arrested. We take to court. I think we have the highest number of kidnappers who have been jailed in Delta. So the process of law and order is on to deal with. But Delta is a more peaceful place now than it used to be. We are not there yet, but we are gradually getting there.
Now, the economic dashboard. Of course, the economic dashboard that I understand, it's like a barometer by which you gauge what your government is actually doing. The last time your Commissioner for Economic Planning, Ken Okpara, was here with Angela, and we talked about the economic dashboard, amber, red, green. And I remember I did ask you this question, that if one of your commissioners do not do well, would you fire? Because
he will fire himself. You see,
will fire?
No, it's not me that will fire him. He will fire himself. Because you see, we are doing another assessment now. And that assessment will also Now, you know the first one we did, because that was the first time, it was like a learning curve for all of us. So now we are doing the second one. And this second one, the results that will come out with the second one, it's well known that you have the red. I mean, when the referee gives you red cards, you leave the field. You don't need anybody you don't need the FIFA president to come and remove you from the field. The red card. So when a commissioner sees a red card at the end of the assessment, he knows that it's not, he just throws his letter in. Of course, the amber means that you have not measured. Then we'll discuss. And if I notice that from our discussion, there's no hope of your getting there, of course. And the green, that means you are coming. Now, it's something that is starting new in the governance in any state in Nigeria. It's been quite challenging. Even doing the second phase now has been quite challenging. We would have done it, the results would have come before now. But of course, you know, doing this kind of things is not easy, because you're also talking of the livelihood of people. So the process is going on, and before I leave office, we'll get the results.
So it's like an assessment process for you to know.
It's a process of setting targets. And you say target yourself. That's what the dashboard is. You set the target yourself. You ensure it also ensures that every worker is involved in meeting the target. Because what that first assessment did, because after the assessment, and I had to sit with every ministry one by one and discuss the results. And it was not just sitting with the commissioner, but even the level 8 officer, you know, they were all there. And what played out from that first assessment is that there are some, especially people on the lower cadre of the ministry, like level 8, 9, who do not even know what is happening in the ministry, you know. And because, you know, most governments, sometimes they can be top heavy, and a lot of things just end at that top, the junior worker. So it's difficult for them to even grow properly. So what that assessment showed us is that there are people, very intelligent young persons at level 8, 9, who were not involved in a lot of our activities. And we now said, look, these guys, some of these things must be generated from that level. A commissioner must ensure that whatever is bringing to the ESCO has an input on the younger, because that's the only way we can grow. They can grow, you know. So that's.
Okay, let me take a few more comments. Keep those comments coming on Facebook and on Twitter. Moses Ebe is saying, thumbs up for all your developmental stride, which we are seeing the result and reaping the dividend. But the big question size, after your tenure, would there be continuity for all those programs? Would it be guaranteed the continuity? Fantastic question.
Now, yeah, there'll be continuity. Some of the things we are doing, we are legalizing them by ensuring that they go to the House of Assembly. So it's not easy to just scrap them. Then two, some of them are developing a life of its own. Will you come, for instance, the next governor, you say, I'm throwing away data beyond oil. I don't know whether I don't know what else you want to do, because like you said, that economic development model has developed a life of its own. We also have Nigeria beyond oil. Whatever is being done by the federal government now is to look at other areas of the economy. The Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Trade and Tourism, they're looking at other areas of the economy. So it's not something that somebody can just come and scrap. Even our other social programs, will you come now and say, oh, the women should no longer have free access to health care when they are pregnant? Will you scrape that? Or will you scrape the free health care for under 5 children? Will you scrap the scholarship, various scholarship schemes? Or will you say, oh, Delta should not be doing well at National Sports Festival or other international sports festivals? Because anytime we win in any sporting activity, it's so gladdening that to hear virtually every Deltan is happy. You know, you can never imagine the kind of people I get calls from. If I one of the first people that would call me anytime I win is Chief Ike Clark. You know, congrats, oh, thank you, Delta. You know, our elder statesmen, they are excited. The young ones are excited. The women are excited. So everybody is excited. So will you scrap the sporting program. So some of these programs have lives of their own. Of course, if you scrap them, then maybe you are just ready for one tenor. That's if they allow you to even complete.
As a politician.
That's if they will allow you to complete the one tenor. So, and some of these programs really, like our sporting program, did not start from me. One of the foundations of sports in Delta today was laid by Bermudia. And subsequent government, including my predecessor, Chijesu Anishiguri, built on that foundation. So it's just a continuous.
Okay, Okafor Kene is saying, Your Excellency, can a person who is not from Delta State have access to the loan you are talking about?
For now,
if you are not in Delta, would you have access to the loan?
If you live in Delta, yes. But if you are not living in Delta, I don't know how we can do that.
Okay. And the person did tell me the state he is from, you know.
If you live in Delta, and I mean,
Oh, okay. Ediri Oyibo Jr. is saying, ask the governor for me. Delta State is replete with fertile land, which has been polluted by oil exploration. You've gone through that before. Okay, what's the government doing to curb pollution, and what mechanisms? I think you've actually gone through that. Let me see if I can get one or two comments from Twitter. Keep them coming. The governor of Delta State is my guest today. We're looking at Delta State economy. Ibrahim is saying on Twitter, Dr. Oduaghan is doing well for the people of Delta State. I like his style of governance. That is Ibrahim from Kaduna State. Now, Your Excellency, I need to ask you this question. Of course, you've touched on it a bit, that sports investment didn't start from you. Why is it that? I know the Nigeria National Sports Festival, Delta is always coming tops. Why is it that you have this keen interest? And I know why I'm asking you the question. It must have started from your predecessors, like you said. But you are always interested. You always go to the field to stay with the athletes. And let me specifically say this. Blessing Okagbari, that won the Commonwealth. I saw you jumping on television at the stadium when she came up tops. I could feel the energy where I was watching. You were so elated. Why the investment? Because I know you've been financially and morally supportive, not just to Blessing, but why is that? Sport investment in Delta State.
First of all, I've been involved in sports personally from secondary school.
What sports were you doing?
I started with football.
Okay.
Then I now started playing tennis. You know, while in secondary school. Yes, while in secondary school. For primary, I was playing football. Then tennis, and I'm also involved in squash, swimming. I attended a school, Federal Government College Warri, where you had to be involved in one sporting activity or the other. Now, of course, all through, even when I was working, I was still playing tennis. And when I came into government, I've been involved in tennis. So I have passion for sports. You know, one of the things I watch on television is sporting activities. Now, in terms of, like I said, Deltans are passionate about sports. Generally, we are passionate about sports. So I must make sure that we come tops by investing financially and also time. Now, during the National Sports Festivals, I'm one of the very few governors who go to the camp, you know, when the game is going on, to encourage our athletes. I do that. I like to I mean, see me encouraging them, gives them the added boost to be able to win medals. Now, coming back to Blessing, the issue of Blessing, let me, like you said, we have other athletes that we are sponsoring. Now, at the last Olympics, Blessing did not do quite well. She was doing very well up to semi-finals, and at the finals, for some strange reasons, she didn't quite make it. But then, she was still the 8th fastest runner in the world. By the time she came back to Nigeria, as we normally do, Nigerians were laughing at her. Oh, Delta not the carry last, Warri not the carry last, but Sapele carry last. You know, even comedians started using it, and it got to her. You know, from the chairman of the State Sports Commission, and Amaju, and Solomon, I got to know that she was even saying that she will no longer compete. So I said, well, I called, I sent for her. So she came to see me in the office. And of course, as soon as she got to the room, she started crying. You know, saying no, she will not compete again. Nigerians are abusing her, they don't appreciate her and all that. So I encouraged her, talked to her, tried to counsel her. This is not the end of life. You see, the thing is, falling is not the issue, but getting up from that position of where you are falling is. So what I tried to do was to help her, assist her to get up from that position that she has fallen into. And this is why I want to appeal to Nigerians. You know, right now we will have the Super Eagles that we say fell at the last weekend. We take part in too much criticism, very negative ones. You know, that will not encourage anybody to even say, let me fight for Nigeria. Let us try to encourage them. That is not the end of football for Nigeria. These are guys who won the Africa Cup of Nations. You know, so Blessing was in that kind of situation, and I had to encourage her to, like, okay, we'll send you, okay, we'll pay for some of your competitions and all that. And so we more or less like signed an unwritten agreement. She said, okay, at the end, she said, okay, she will struggle and do well. And of course, she started with the international athletic competition where she won silver and bronze. And at the Commonwealth, a few days of the Commonwealth, when I talked to her, because I used to talk to her periodically, although she was in America, I used to talk to the coach. She said, well, am I coming for the Commonwealth? I said, no. She said, you know, that I should come, or if I come, that she has promised me she will give me 2 gold medals. I said, are you sure?
She said so.
Yes. I said, are you sure? She said, yes, that she will give me 2 gold medals if I come for the Commonwealth. So we had that kind of agreement. Of course, I had to struggle to go for the Commonwealth. And on that day, when she was doing the 100, she wanted to start the 100 meters, the president of the Olympic committee, Danusa, was there with me. The president of the Athletics Federation of Nigeria, Solomon Ogba, of course, DG, National Sports Commission, were together. Of course, you can imagine where our hearts were when they wanted to start. And when they started, midway, she was already leading, and within a few seconds we had taken first. What we did was spontaneous. You know,
I saw the jubilation.
We're hugging ourselves. Yes, it was spontaneous. Yeah. We signed, like I said, on a written agreement. She met her part, I met my part. You know, it was very exciting. It was, and I'm happy that she did that. And she
fulfilled her promise to you.
Yes.
That she will give you 2 gold medals, and she did that. Not just for you, but for Nigeria.
For Nigeria. You see, you cannot imagine what it feels to be a Nigerian at that moment. 2 moments. One, when she won, and the whole stadium stood up for a Nigerian. The other one was when she was being presented with the medal and Nigerian anthem. You know, they had to put up Nigerian flag and sing Nigerian anthem, and of course the whole stadium had to stand up for our national anthem and our national flag. You know, just because that young lady did what she did. You know, so it was a moment of joy for all of us.
Your Excellency, I will not let you go because we have. Time flies. We have just a few minutes without talking about what is ravaging some countries in West Africa, which we are part of, Ebola.
Yeah.
On the show, sometime was it last week, I looked at the Ebola's impact on West African economies, which Nigeria is part of. Some analysts and economists have said that it will impact our economy however you look at that. Lagos, okay, there could be pockets, retail trade down, people, that social life is not there. I was listening to the governor of Lagos State, was it last week, and he said that the night economy is going down in Lagos because the socializing, people would prefer to stay at home now and be safe. Has Delta State recorded any Ebola case?
No, we have not recorded. There have been scares. There have been scares, but each time we do the tests, they turn out negative. But I will also say that, and I agree with those who say that it will affect the economy, and it's already doing that. You know, before, when you go outside Nigeria and you're talking about bringing investment, or you're talking to investors, the first thing they ask you is about a security situation. But now, the thing they will ask you, they will talk about is Ebola. You know, so that's first of all, the scare coming to Nigeria is. But we as a state, we're experiencing something now, a very big challenge. We had gone to Trinidad and Tobago and Barbados and trying to send some of our youths for skill acquisitions. And for the past 4 weeks, we've done everything, all the paperwork and all that. It's been difficult for those countries accepting these youths because of the Ebola challenge. Even when we have done the test and we are still struggling, they are still struggling to agree that these youths should fly and come and do those training there. So it's already a scare all over the world, and there's, naturally it will affect our economy. Traveling out of this country, the kind of humiliation that you see. The other day, somebody who traveled and America, the immigration, when they took him to the corner, the first thing they asked him was, when last were you in the hospital? Which were questions they did used to have before. And of course, they saw a few drugs in his bag, and so they wanted to know exactly what those drugs were being used for, you know. So you have this kind of embarrassment.
But are you prepared? Peradventure, there's a case in Delta. How well are you prepared in Delta State?
Yes, right from the time the Lagos episode happened, we formed an interministerial committee, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Information, Ministry of Environment, and all that. And we had what we call two boxes. One is a box or a protocol, just in case there's a suspected case, like we have been having suspected cases, how to deal with the protocol to manage that from the time we get information till we confirm whether it is or it is not. You know, we have that protocol outlined. Then the second protocol is that of advocacy, or called sensitization. You know, fortunately, we have a health system that recognizes the village health worker who is more into health education. And so what we did was to do some training for them and some other levels, and of course through the Ministry of Information, using our various media, we'll be doing the grassroots campaign. Now, what some of the challenge we have on this Ebola matter is our traditional issues, especially on barriers. Why this thing has been ravaging Liberia and all that has been through barriers. Even the soya that came to Nigeria, he attended
People
the burial.
don't want to be cremated.
Yes, he attended a burial ceremony. But we need to educate our people on issues of burial. When people die, when they die outside the environment, the conditions, and during the burial ceremonies, what to do and what not to do. You know, we have some of these traditional methods, ways of when people die, women are told to
sit around the dead body.
Apart from that, sometimes they bathe these dead bodies, and the women are told to drink the water and all that. We must condemn those.
Okay. Okay, very quickly, because I'm afraid we have to go. It's almost 12 o'clock. Your administration will be ending 2015. What do you think will be your greatest legacy? What do you want to be remembered for?
It depends on who's remembering me. The woman who had challenge in delivery, when she used to get pregnant, she didn't have money to pay in the hospital. And so maybe she goes to the traditional birth attendant and the baby dies. But now has access to free health care and can have antenatal clinic free, can deliver free, and come out with a healthy baby. Of course, you remember me each time she sees that baby. Sometimes they have even given Oduaghan or Emmanuel to those children, you know. Or the person who used to, the businessman who used to come through Benin to Asaba and go to Onitsha for his business, but can now fly straight to Asaba. Will remember me for the airport. So it depends on who is remembering me. The market woman who used to go on rickety buses to the market, but can now enjoy the new buses, which is even at the half price. Will remember me. So you get you have Oduaghan buses all over the place. So it depends on who's remembering me, because we've tried to touch the lives of everybody, especially the poor. You know, our programs, free maternal health care, educational programs, our free buses, you know, we have a lot of programs that are targeted at the lower class of the society. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for being on the seat today with me talking about Delta State's economic issues. I wish you well the remaining months, your tenure, but I hope it's not the last anyway. I hope to speak to you before you bow out, so that we take that will be back to Delta. I'll have to come back. You won't come to me. Yes. All right, many thanks for being on the program. I wish you a great day.
Thank you.
All right, I've been speaking with His Excellency, the Governor of Delta State, Dr. Emmanuel Oduaghan. We've been chatting, of course, as it concerns Delta State economy from Delta Beyond, which he's been promoting to other issues around the Delta State economy. Thank you all for being a part of the program, especially to those that sent their messages. Like I always say, be the best you can be the change you want to see. Don't forget to regularly also wash your hands with soap and water. If you have a sanitizer, that would also do. God bless Nigeria. See you tomorrow.